Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at 4 on this Thursday. Everyone exhale, breathe.
And everyone is smiling. What is that bright orb in the sky?
Yeah, we need it.
Boy, isn't it nice to see the
is.
sun, and it's crisp and cool outside.
Kind of football weather.
Yeah, it feels good.
And if you're ready for football, is your TV ready for football? Consumer Reports will talk with some tech experts there about what TVs are best for watching football and what you can do to your current set to make it look better.
Yeah, some really good advice.
Yeah. All right, but first, here's what's making news on this Thursday. The National Guard is helping keep the interstate open for traffic. Keely Arthur shows us how flooding is slowing down travelers.
Police are looking for suspects after a noontime shooting on Madison's west side. Our Jamie Perez will join us live with the latest from Elver Park.
And farewell to one of Hollywood's biggest and favorite stars. A look back at the career of Burt Reynolds.
It was very sad news.
It really was. 82 years old.
Let's take a look outside today. Boy, is it a beautiful afternoon after weeks and weeks of rain.
Crisp, yes. It's very nice outside. Chance for everybody to dry out. The weather words for today, a thankfully boring forecast, but the never boring Dave Caulfield is in the backyard with that bright thing in the sky.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be bored over the next week or week and a half, Mark and Susan, because the weather is really on repeat mode, but for once it's not on repeat rain mode. It's on repeat sunny, pleasant, dry, maybe a little breezy at times, but that's really the only weather headline outside, and that gives our lakes and rivers a chance to calm down and gradually stop flooding over the next couple of days. Downtown Madison on the Edgewater Skycam looking at mostly to partly sunny skies. 73 degrees right now, northeast wind at 12 miles per hour. That dew point much more comfortable in the mid-50s. All that rain closer to where that front has gone, which is closer to Chicago and into northern Illinois, into Indiana as well, but we don't need to worry about that rain. We're going to be quiet on Doppler track for the foreseeable future. Temperatures in the 70s, a little bit close to the lake because we do have a little bit of an onshore component, a little bit cooler. Dew points are in the 50s and mid-50s, some 40s out there. Look at how much less humid it is outside compared to this time yesterday, about 15 to 25 degrees less humid to be more exact. Wind speeds out of the north and east at about 8 to 15 miles per hour. Live look in Madison, we see some high cirrus clouds, but that's about it. Still some blue sky. Your forecast first. Temperatures falling through the 60s into the upper 50s by later on tonight. Now, just because we had a dry day today does not mean this flooding magically disappears. So keep in mind, you still may run into flooded roadways. There's still some closures, especially closer to Sauk and Columbia County, but also on the isthmus related to flooding, so going to want to give yourself definitely a few extra minutes. On the Beltline, we can see those normal slowdowns for this time in the afternoon as well. Things not looking too bad closer to the interstate right now, but Verona Road to John Nolan, that's 12 minutes, a little bit slow, average speed of around 20 miles per hour. Some other routes in and around Madison, downtown to Sun Prairie, that's 17 minutes, so that's about normal, average speed of around 35 miles per hour. And that is your first alert traffic update. We'll talk about some breezy weather, and that's really about it. We can all kind of calm down as this weather gets a little bit warmer into next week.
That's good. Take the rest of the week off.
Oh, all right, sounds good.
On autopilot now for the next 7 days.
Yes.
All right, Dave, thank you.
Good stuff.
First at 5. Unfortunately, the flooding isn't over yet, though. The National Guard called out to Columbia County today to assist the flood-ravaged area.
They're focusing on a stretch of Interstate 9094, which is dangerously close to the rising water. Our Keely Arthur is live there now near Portage with the details. Keely?
Check this out. This is the water that is flowing toward the interstate, which is at a much lower point. We are at a now closed off way station off Highway 33 and Interstate 9094. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation now reporting up to 2-hour delays eastbound on the interstate near exit 106 as the National Guard works tirelessly to prevent water from overflowing onto the roadway. They're building a nearly mile-long wall of sandbags to protect drivers. Officials say to expect delays as crews continue to sandbag and lanes are reduced.
Without anything getting much worse, they're hoping to keep at least one lane of both I-90 and 94 and I-39 open at all times. So there's probably going to be, backups of traffic because of that, but that's our plan right now.
Of course, that plan could change as water levels are expected to rise. Officials say when all is said and done, 50,000 sandbags will be dedicated to this project alone. And as you saw in that video there, the National Guard working really hard to keep those sandbags filled, but they need your help to keep up with all that demand. If you want to volunteer, contact the Columbia County Emergency Management Team. We have their information up on our website, channel3000.com. Back to you.
Nice to see the sun, but there's a long way to go to recover from this. Keely Arthur reporting live tonight. Keely, thanks.
And flooding of the Baraboo River to the west of there is peaking today in Rock Springs and later this evening in North Freedom. Sky 3 video shows parts of the Mid-Continental Railroad Museum in North Freedom is underwater, and most of the damage there was done to the depot. The museum transferred 75 railroad locomotives and rail cars to higher ground 2 miles away earlier. Rose Schmidt was in North Freedom and Rock Springs, and we'll have more from there on News 3 at 5. In other news, police are actively investigating the scene of a shooting that happened just after noon today.
It happened at the Crossings Apartments at Elver Park, and that is where our Jamie Perez joins us live with the latest information. Jamie?
Yeah, that's right. So we're actually in an area that just even 15 minutes ago was completely blocked off. You can see that they actually just removed that police do not cross line tape. Residents are now being let back into their homes, but there are still some residents that are standing around and kind of waiting to see what else is going to happen. So here's what we know so far about that shooting. The suspect and the victim had a disagreement over something, and the suspect ended up shooting the victim in the leg. The victim was then taken to the hospital, but he is expected to be okay. The suspect is described as a black male, about 30 years old. The victim described as a black man, about 18 years old. The suspect is still at large, and police say they don't know if he's in the apartment complex still or somewhere out in the community.
At this point, we've identified, we believe we've identified a suspect, but he's still at large. And so that's why you see a lot of the police presence behind us right now, is there's a possibility that he is still here in the Moraine View area. We don't know that. We've also had witnesses tell us that they believe he drove out of here. So whether or not he's here or somewhere else, we do know his name and we're looking for him right now.
But is cautioning people in the community to be on the lookout. And there are a lot of children and family that live in this area, so police say that it's really scary that this happened in their presence. Not only that, but in broad daylight. We asked some residents earlier what they're making of this whole situation. We'll have that interview coming up for you tonight at 5.
All right, Jamie Perez reporting live from Madison's West Side. Thank you.
A gunman opened fire at a bank in downtown Cincinnati this morning. Police say the shooter opened fire on the bank's loading dock before going into the lobby area. He shot 5 people, killing 3. The shooter died at the scene following an exchange of gunfire with police. The motive for the shooting is still unknown.
I believe there is some security camera. We are trying to secure that video, as well as there'll be body cams from the officers that has to be processed. So there's much work to be done.
The FBI and the ATF are helping local police with the investigation.
Speculation is running rampant in Washington, D.C. about the identity of the senior Trump administration official who wrote an anonymous op-ed piece in the New York Times claiming to be part of a movement to thwart parts of President Trump's agenda. Nicole Killian has more details from the White House.
The failing New York Times has an anonymous editorial. Can you believe it? Anonymous, meaning gutless, a gutless editorial.
President Trump is said to be furious about an anonymous New York Times opinion piece claiming to be written by a senior official in the White House. The author says he or she is part of a resistance inside the administration and claims to be part of a group thwarting Mr. Trump's more misguided impulses until he's out of office. President Trump demanded on Twitter that the Times must, for national security purposes, turn him or her over to the government at once.
He's part of the resistance within the Trump administration. This is what we have to deal with.
While campaigning in Florida for Rick Scott, Vice President Mike Pence called the article a disgrace.
Anyone who would write an anonymous editorial smearing this president, who's provided extraordinary leadership to this country, should not be working for this administration. They ought to do the honorable thing and they ought to resign.
Dozens of Trump administration officials have since issued statements denying they wrote the article, and First Lady Melania Trump called the writer's actions cowardly. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders tweeted the New York Times is complicit in this deceitful act and published the phone number to the paper's opinion desk. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo blamed the media.
I find the media's efforts in this regard to undermine this administration incredibly disturbing.
The Times defended the op-ed, saying it adds significant value to the public's understanding of what is going on in the Trump administration. In Washington, Nicole Killian for WISC News 3.
And the New York Times op-ed editor says the paper was first approached through a third party, and they only ran the piece after verifying the author who the author is, who he claims to be.
Day 3 of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing got off to a contentious start. A battle over the release of more than 100,000 documents dominated the first part of today's hearing. New Jersey Democrat Cory Booker dared to face disciplinary action for publicly releasing material the committee labeled confidential. Senator Dianne Feinstein questioned Kavanaugh about a previously confidential email that he wrote while working in the George W. Bush White House. It said, "I am not sure that all legal scholars refer to Roe as settled law of the land."
This has been viewed as you saying that you don't think Roe is settled.
I'm always concerned with accuracy, and I thought that was not quite accurate description of all legal scholars.
Senators revisited whether Kavanaugh had discussed special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. He said he hasn't. A steady stream of protesters continued to interrupt the proceedings as they did during the first 2 days.
Well, the Twitter wars between politicians has reached the state level. Republican Governor Scott Walker taking a page out of President Trump's playbook and calling on all NFL players to stand and not take a knee during the national anthem. Walker issued a series of tweets this morning, hours before the NFL season kicks off, one with a cartoon image of himself in front of an American flag, hand on heart. In another tweet, Walker asked Democratic challenger Tony Evers where he stands on the issue. Walker also retweeted a January message from Evers' running mate Mandela Barnes, where he posted, "Take a knee," in reaction to a story about whether Trump knew the words to the national anthem. Barnes responded by asking Walker, "You could have served in 3 wars. Why didn't you stand up then?" Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Clayfish accused Barnes of kneeling during the anthem. Barnes called her a liar, and so it goes. Burt Reynolds, one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars, who then went on to have an award-winning career in television, has died.
He first rose to fame in television westerns, and after an injury ended his college football career, it was his turn as Macho Lewis Medlock in the 1972 wilderness classic Deliverance that turned Burt Reynolds into a superstar.
Who has the ability to survive.
That same year, Reynolds shocked America by posing nude for Cosmopolitan, and he later said he thought the photo cost him and his Deliverance co-stars Oscar recognition. But it didn't cost him fans. A string of hits followed, including The Longest Yard and Smokey and the Bandit, which paired him with Sally Field. He married actress Lonnie Anderson, but it ended 4 years later in a messy divorce. After a series of box office flops, Reynolds turned to television. He won an Emmy for the CBS sitcom Evening Shade and continued to act into his later years. He said through all of his life's ups and downs, you just got to keep going on. Burt Reynolds was 82 years old.
What a career.
That's right, exactly.
And what a force he was.
Yes.
He'll be missed. Well, coming up, what's happening this weekend in the 608?
It's a busy weekend around town, and we'll talk about how the UW hopes to become a leader in the biomanufacturing field. That's when Live at 4 continues.
Welcome back. The UW launches a new initiative to make Wisconsin a leader in biomanufacturing.
The new Forward Bio initiative pushes the creation of the next generation of healthcare products. It's a partnership between the state and UW-Madison. With the help of a $750,000 grant from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, the Forward Bio Institute will act as a catapult to push groundbreaking discoveries right here in Madison into the private sector.
The Forward Bio Initiative is unique because it supports the entire path from early stage scientific discovery through economic development and ultimately life-changing societal impact.
The Forward Bio Institute will not only develop next-generation technologies, it will also train the next generation of students to lead such developments. It will also establish a new master's degree program in biomanufacturing innovation at UW-Madison.
Tech stocks continue to decline on Wall Street. The Dow Industrials managed a 20-point gain, closing at 25,995. The tech-heavy NASDAQ Composite Index lost 72, and the S&P 500 was off 10.5. Well, it's almost the weekend in the 608.
Madison Magazine Associate Editor Joel Patnaud is here to fill in tonight for Emmy Fink. Hi, Joel. Good to see you.
You too.
Happy Thursday.
I know, we're all messed up because of the holiday. So it's a big weekend for jazz and jazz fans,
Yeah,
right?
It really is. And it all starts Friday night with Stroll in Middleton Jazz Festival. Now, that will be 8 venues in downtown Middleton, which is very walkable, with 14 jazz ensembles expected to play. This is organized by the Greater Madison Jazz Consortium. It includes Johnny Chimes, of course, who usually plays Louisiana's, but Jim Erickson Septet, and another highlight, Jerry DiMaggio World, as she puts it, the World Jazz Unit is worth seeing too. And there's also a pop-out art walk as well. In several locations.
As you say, very walkable downtown
Middleton. Yes,
all right, then Saturday.
Saturday also, Cafe Coda. This is a much anticipated opening of what Madison has been lacking, which is a dedicated jazz club. It is being organized and has long been sought, a location anyway, by jazz musician John Taylor Hanna. He'll be opening it Saturday afternoon with a community drum circle. And then an open house. And then in the evening, there will be a performance by Chicago-Detroit jazz pianist Alexis Lambre.
Okay.
Now, the cafe anyway, Cafe Coda, will be open Wednesdays through Saturdays, so there'll be nights dedicated to improv, world dance music, regional acts, as well as world-renowned professional players.
On Willie Street.
On Willie Street. Yep.
Very cool. Well, if you like live music, but you're not necessarily into jazz, there's some other good options this weekend.
There's the roots icons of Dave Alvin and Jimmy Dale Gilmore at the Stoughton Opera House. That could be really cool. The guitarist Alvin and singer Jimmy Dale Gilmore have been friends for a long time, but they've only recently started collaborating. They put out an album in June called Downey to Lubbock, and they're out supporting that now. And they'll be at the Opera House.
Okay. All right, an interesting exhibit opening at Overture as well.
Yes, in the upstairs James Watros Gallery, there will be 10 photographers from Chicago, I'm trying to think, Milwaukee, St. Louis, Dayton, Iowa City, all with different interpretations of life and the landscape of the Midwest. They have a Friday opening reception. Many of those photographers will be there for that evening. And then the exhibit is open until October 28th.
And it's free.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah, very cool. And of course, this is Iron Man weekend in Madison.
It is. And so people are used to road closures. It's going to be complicated all the more by the road closures that we already have for downtown flooding. I have been back and forth with Iron Man organization, to see if they're making any contingency plans. And apparently they're only changing the first 3 miles and the last 3 miles of the bike course, and that's because of flooded trails. The swim course is going to be the same, despite Lake Mendota having maybe water quality issues and debris floating out there, but they're going to be keeping an eye on that right to the beginning of the race. Yeah. But this is an event that, while 2,900 people participate in, 30,000 people tend to spectate.
It's so inspiring.
Yeah,
it really is. So I'm hoping people will try to find ways to the course.
Cheer on the runners that run through campus downtown.
Yeah. I mean,
and you'll be competing as usual.
Again, no.
Joel, thank you.
Good to see you, Joel.
Lots going on. get this month's Madison magazine for all the best in the Madison area.
When we come back, they captured headlines earlier this summer. The boys' soccer team stuck in a cave in Thailand and their amazing rescue.
Well, the boys are back in the spotlight as they appear before the public together again. We'll have that story coming up after day's dry first alert forecast. Take a look at this. Here's something you don't see every day. A T-Rex hanging 10. I think we just leave it at that. A Denmark-based videographer filmed his friend, 23-year-old surfer Kasper Steinfath, surfing in a dinosaur costume. This footage was taken along the Danish coast, known as Cold Hawaii in Europe, because of the good surfing conditions there. Just ask T-Rex.
I love those T-Rex costumes.
He seems, we've had him plowing snow and
mowing the lawn, and yeah.
Everything is so much fun here.
It is. Yeah,
it's an undisputed fact.
Yeah, it is.
Also a fact, it's Thursday, September 6th, and it's Read a Book Day. Pretty self-explanatory.
We just asked Dave what he's been reading, and he said his meteorology textbooks.
Yeah, I just go over them from time to time, just to make sure I got it all right.
Calm down now. That's enough.
All right.
Overachiever.
It is Barbie Doll Day. The doll first went on sale on this date in 1959. Trivia. You're a trivia guy.
I am.
What's your full name?
Barbara Millicent Roberts.
There you go. You might need that.
Right off the top of my head.
You might need that someday.
You're absolutely
That is a great trivia answer. And today is National Coffee Ice Cream Day. It's believed this perfect combination of coffee and ice cream made its debut in the mid-19th century. This is my mom and my favorite flavor.
That's two of my favorite things.
Me
Coffee
too.
and ice cream.
Yeah, me too.
That is good.
Me too. You sure you don't want one? Dave's on a diet.
I'm
Sorry.
okay.
He's not a coffee. He's got textbooks to read.
Yeah, I mean.
Can't get all jittery reading
That's true.
Exactly.
occluded front chapters.
Oh my gosh, I passed that weeks ago. I passed that chapter weeks ago. And we are in a new chapter of weather because we actually get to talk about an extended dry period of weather. I'm so excited. Your first alert forecast is coming up right after I read a couple of chapters. Good afternoon. I hope everyone's having a great Thursday and a sunny and dry Thursday across Wisconsin. That is just the best news out of everything, especially given the past 2 to 3 weeks across our area. That front has moved to the south. You can see the cloud shield has also moved to the south and east, and we do have a couple of clouds, but we're not dealing with any rain showers. That's the best news right now, and that rain has moved a little bit farther to the south and east, and we don't need any more rain just in the month of September. Even though it's only 6 days old, we're already up to about 2.9 inches of rain in Madison. Dubuque over 5 inches, and about 3 inches in Milwaukee as well. Remember, for the entire month of September, folks, we get about 3 inches of rain typically in Madison, so we're about 2.5 inches ahead of schedule in Madison and Milwaukee, and more than 5 inches ahead of schedule in Dubuque. The good news is I think that rain stays away for at least the next week, possibly even into the next 10 days or so. The drought monitor, yeah, we're not going to see that anytime soon across Wisconsin, but as we zoom out, we can see southern Iowa and northern Missouri still dealing with some pretty extreme drought conditions, so hopefully the rain finds them over the next couple of days. As I mentioned, really not going to see much in the way of precipitation, if any at all, over the next 6 to 10 days, and the Climate Prediction Center agreeing with me on this point. We're in the below average sector of their 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, and that goes into the middle of this month. And with the no precipitation, a lot of sunshine, temperatures probably going to be a little bit, at least, above average as we head into that same time period. Right now, we're a little bit below average in temperature land because of these northeasterly winds, that dry air in town, but it still feels very nice outside in downtown Madison. The almanac, 73 degrees today. Normal is 76. But we can definitely deal with this. I don't think we have any trouble dealing with this nice weather outside. Temperatures right now, 73 in Janesville, 71 in Watertown. Juneau taking a little bit of a break right now, 72 in the Dells and 74 in Lone Rock. Dew points much, much better. You could just feel it as you stepped outside. Don't really need to worry about that humidity anytime soon either. 46 in the Dells and that dew point in the 50s in Madison, still very comfortable, much more comfortable compared to this time yesterday. So we're out of the tropical area and much more comfortable outside in dew point land. Now, future track showing our cold front that caused the rain yesterday slowly moving to the south and east. High pressure takes over and deflects all that bad weather away from southern Wisconsin. Now, the remnants of Gordon, I think, are going to get picked up by this front and not affect us. So they'll continue to move north over the next day or so and then to the east, missing southern Wisconsin entirely. That's fantastic news. Tonight, mostly clear, cooler. Temperatures around 50 degrees. Some of us dipping into the 40s, so definitely a little bit brisk outside. Tomorrow, partly sunny and breezy. Temperatures in pretty much the same territory with highs in the mid-70s. So we'll see mostly clear skies tonight. Maybe a few more clouds as we start off Friday, but that rain stays south of the Wisconsin state line, which is great news. And we are looking at temperatures in the low to mid-70s tomorrow and into Saturday. Pretty similar conditions for the start of the Badger game on Saturday morning. I think temperatures will be in the mid-60s, so keep that in mind. Maybe a little bit on the brisk side, but it does feel a little bit more like football weather outside, and that's great. So your 7-day forecast looking a lot like the 10-day forecast. You are reading that right. Not a single rain icon on the board. So survey says that's a great forecast, and I don't even need to ask Steve Harvey about that one. Temperatures are in the mid-70s for this weekend, maybe a little bit breezy on Saturday and Sunday, so that's something to keep in mind. Into next week, we will get back into the 80s with plenty of sunshine greeting us basically every day.
That is a great looking forecast. We need it.
I worked hard. I actually didn't work that hard.
Take 10 days off. We don't need you.
All right, sounds good.
Your work here is done.
Bye. Yeah, you do.
The 12 boys and their soccer coach trapped for nearly 3 weeks in a flooded cave in Thailand are back in the spotlight.
The boys spoke to crowds about their ordeal at an exhibition in the country's capital of Bangkok. CBS's Tina Kraus has the story.
The young soccer players turned celebrities climbed out of a mock exhibit of a narrow cave with smiles on their faces as they recalled their real escape in northern Thailand nearly 2 months ago. 15-year-old Ekarat said, "I'd like to thank everybody all over the world, my friends and the Navy SEALs who helped us." The interactive showcase inside a popular mall in Bangkok details efforts international divers made to save the boys. Visitors can see dive suits search teams wore and wrap themselves in thermal blankets like the boys used to stay warm. Team captain, 12-year-old Dom, says he now has about 300,000 Instagram followers. The team was trapped in the flooded cave for almost 2 weeks before search crews found them and launched an elaborate rescue plan. The exhibit also features a statue remembering the former Navy SEAL diver who died installing oxygen tanks along the treacherous escape route. The team's coach, who took the boys into the complex before floodwaters hit, has since become a monk. He says the lesson for everyone is to be mindful of what you're doing, because anything can happen in life. Tina Kraus, WISC News 3.
Thailand's government organized the exhibition, which will tour the country after it closes in Bangkok.
At least 6 films and several books about the dramatic rescue are also in the works.
That's what I was just thinking about.
It's going to be quite a movie.
Yeah, it will be.
Well, is Bossy a little gassy? Maybe it's what she eats.
When we come back, we'll look at new research that's trying to determine if changing a cow's diet can reduce methane gas production. Seaweed, believe it or not, may be the key. We'll talk about that when Live at 4 continues. What a beautiful day for a visit at the zoo.
Absolutely.
Great day to take a walk with the kids over there. We didn't get to see any of the animals today.
There's some people.
The University of California researchers are studying whether feeding seaweed to dairy cows will reduce their emissions of methane.
That's a potent greenhouse gas released by livestock, and early results look promising, and more studies are planned. It's breakfast time at this dairy farm at the University of California, Davis. But this cattle feed contains an unusual ingredient: seaweed.
We mix it with molasses, so it's a nice little sweet treat for them. We try to mix it as well as we can into their feed, but we have some cows that'll pick it out, and we have some cows that'll go right for the seaweed.
If they don't eat the seaweed, then we won't see any reduction in methane.
Davis is testing whether seaweed can reduce emissions of methane, a potent greenhouse gas that's released when cattle burp, pass gas, or make manure. Dairy farms and other livestock operations are major sources of methane. That's why California is requiring them to cut emissions by 40% by 2030.
Reducing methane ultimately means reducing greenhouse gases and reducing the impacts of climate change. So it affects everybody in the globe.
This is a wild Atlantic kelp.
Before feeding seaweed to the cows, at UC Davis, researchers tested in this lab, where they can measure emissions in fermenters that simulate cattle's stomachs.
And we can test the effect of different feed additives on the gut microbiology.
Here we have some milk samples.
They also test milk samples for flavor and nutritional value. The methane content of the cow's breath is measured when they stick their heads in these feeding machines. The first study of the seaweed diet only involved a dozen cows, but early results show promise, and larger studies are planned.
And so far, it's very encouraging. We've seen over 30% of reduction in methane emissions.
Here at UW-Madison, researchers are studying how a cow's breed, as well as what and how much they eat, affects their emissions, which they measure with this treat dispensing device.
The machine draws air from the breath of the cow, and the machine continuously measures the concentrations of the methane in the air.
Really, what drives the emission from the cow is how much the cow eats. Because the more the cow is going to eat, the more she needs to process that feed, and the more methane she's going to produce.
Researchers hope seaweed and other feed additives can help reduce those emissions and make dairy farms more climate friendly. Yeah, why seaweed, though? That's interesting.
That's what I'm wondering, what it is about the seaweed that makes a difference.
And
but it's interesting that UW-Madison's on the forefront of this research.
Well, we're in America's dairyland.
That's right, makes sense.
A lot of cows on campus. Well, the NFL season kicks off in Philadelphia tonight. The Packers play this Sunday night in prime time.
Lots of TV viewing ahead, so is your set up to the task? If you're looking to buy a new TV, Consumer Reports rates the best sets for watching football. We'll have their recommendations when Live at 4 continues.
Good afternoon. Here is your Thursday First Alert traffic update. The Beltline looking quite busy, as you might expect for this time of day. Also, numerous flooding closures still across southern Wisconsin, so that's something to keep in mind. Give yourself a few extra minutes. Right now, the midsection of the Beltline, speeds anywhere from about 15 closer to 30 miles per hour. Verona Road to John Mullen, 20 minutes, so very slow right now. Average speed of around 13 miles per hour. And the other side, not looking too bad, but a little bit slow in that same stretch. Westbound, average speed of around 35 miles per hour. And that's your First Alert traffic update.
All right, Dave, thank you. In Wolfsburg, Germany, Lego engineers have built a full-size, fully functional, self-propelled Bugatti Chiron that was constructed from over 1 million Lego parts. The electrically powered Lego Bugatti has top speeds of 20 miles an hour compared to 261 miles an hour for its real-life counterpart. It took the team 13,000 hours to build. They didn't even use glue, though it does include some non-Lego materials. Well, the new football season has arrived.
If you're thinking about buying a brand new big screen TV to watch the Packers, now is the time. You might find some good deals, but not all televisions are great for sports viewing.
Consumer Reports tests hundreds of TVs each year, and their senior tech editor, Jim Wilcox, joins us now. Good afternoon, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Good afternoon.
Is now a good time to buy a TV?
So, it's an okay time to buy a TV. You will see some discounts, but really the best deals of the year we see typically are around Black Friday and then around the Super Bowl. 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, there are a lot of promotions. So if you can hold off, you'll probably get a better deal by waiting a few months.
Okay, let's talk about Consumer Reports' specific recommendations. Which TVs are the best of the best?
So, if you're really looking for a top-level TV and you have the budget to sort of indulge that, we really like the LG OLED TVs. Their least expensive model, called the B8, is still a great TV. It's a little bit pricey. It's $2,800 for a 65-inch version, but it really does everything right. Now, obviously, everyone doesn't have that much money to spend on a TV, so our mid-level pick is a Samsung NU8000 series TV. Another 65-inch set. This is only $1,300. Again, great picture quality, and it has very good sound, so you don't really need a sound bar. For people who are on tighter budgets, and that's a lot of us these days, the TCL R615 TV. It's a 65-inch TV with excellent picture quality. It costs $970 for the 65-inch version and only $600 for the smaller 55-inch.
A lot of people sometimes are hesitant to pull the plug. I'm going to buy this TV, but then a year from now, something's going to be a lot better. Are we getting to the point where there's not going to be vast improvements in picture quality?
So we did not see a lot of improvements in picture quality over the last year. There's something called high dynamic range, HDR. That's pretty much a buzzword this year. What it does is it increases the brightness of the TV so you get these brighter, more lifelike images. And that's something that we're tracking this year, and that's really where we've seen the most improvement. The problem is there isn't a ton of HDR content available yet, but we expect it to be coming over the next 12 to 18 months.
I still find it very intimidating buying a new television for exactly the reasons that you mentioned, the technology and all of the improvements. So are there some simple things you can do with the television you have to increase the sports viewing, to increase the quality of the picture you're seeing with sports?
Yeah, so all TVs come with preset modes, and most of the time out of the box, they're not in the best ones. And it probably sounds counterintuitive, but if you do change it, don't put it into the sports mode to watch football. It artificially boosts the brightness and contrast and colors. We recommend that you put the TV into a cinema or a movie mode for a more natural-looking image. Another cool thing is that up on the consumerreports.org website, we have a thing called the TV Optimizer. And what we're now doing is allowing people to get the exact settings that we use when we optimize a TV in our lab for their TVs. So you can plug in the model number that you have and see if we've tested the TV. And if we have, you get the exact settings we used.
Oh, that's great.
If you want to take the plunge and get a new set, what sorts of things should you look for to optimize football viewing?
So obviously, picture quality is the big thing. Most, the TVs that we recommend all have either very good or excellent picture quality. But some other things to consider are viewing angle. A lot of TVs look great when you look at them head on, but if you have a room full of people, the people off to the side don't get that same great image. Also, sports, with some TVs, images tend to blur with fast-moving action like you see in sports. Some TVs do a better job than others. We track both of those different attributes in our ratings. And then finally, sound quality. Football is a very exciting, visceral game, and the sound adds a lot to the enjoyment of that game. So just make sure the TV can do a decent job with sound, or you may want to resort to getting an external soundbar speaker.
All right, well, lots of good tips there, and I guess check out the Consumer Reports ratings, and that should help a lot.
Jim, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Go Pack.
Go Pack, go.
We'll be right back after this. Get out and enjoy if you can.
Yes, so there will be plenty of opportunities, but a little bit over the breezy side over the next couple of days. Platteville looking very nice right now in the Queen Bee Radio Skycam. Tonight will be mostly clear and cooler. Temperatures actually falling into the lower 50s by the time we get to tomorrow. Pretty much looking at the same thing with partly sunny skies, maybe a little bit on the breezy side, as I mentioned, and temperatures in the low to mid 70s for highs.
Just about perfect.
Yeah,
yes.
good stuff.
All right, thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Coming up tomorrow here on Live Before, we'll talk with a local ad executive about Nike's Colin Kaepernick campaign. Was it the right move?
And we'll go backstage with Bruno. Michael will check out Encore Studios' production of Found Money. That's coming up tomorrow on Live at 4.